Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. All Things Middle-earth here with a list of 7 things that you should avoid doing or not doing in the Rise to War. Now, I guarantee that over the course of your time playing this game, you have made at least one of these mistakes. I have probably made, maybe not all of them, but close to all of them, and it can definitely impact your experience. So I want to hear down below if you have made any of these mistakes. If you haven't, if you're the outlier who has just played the perfect game, I seriously want to know. I want to give you props because it is kind of hard as you're learning this game to not make mistakes along the way. So stay tuned. That list coming up right now. Okay, I'm not going to say these are in order from biggest mistake to least big mistake. They're all things you shouldn't be doing. But one of the biggest things in this game, and currently one of the things that's undoable, is putting respect into non-meta or just bad commanders. You saw it in the thumbnail if you saw Denethor there. Again, Denethor and many others like him are very underwhelming. There are especially a lot of commanders who are much more powerful in the lore or the movies or whatever you're familiar with, and they don't stack up in the game. So maybe you're someone who are playing the evil side and you unlocked Saruman and you thought, hey, he's a wizard, he's good, and he's not horrible. He's not one of the worst commanders, but there are better commanders to invest in if you're trying to be very efficient. Likewise with other commanders who are Nazgul and look very cool or very powerful, you think, man, this guy flies around and casts spells. He's got to be great. Well, not great to invest in over other ones. So again, the biggest mistake that you want to avoid if you're just starting out is putting respect in commanders you shouldn't. Number 2 is going to be using your vouchers, these vouchers right up here, on respect. Now this one you might disagree with, and I'd love to hear if you do down below, because this is something I've done quite often if I'm pushing a commander up and I want to push them up faster. It definitely can get tempting to spend some vouchers in here, but if you buy a full batch of 10 for a gold, for example, that's 1,500 vouchers. So every 10 of these items you get is equal to more than a gold weapon. And in my experience playing for more than a year and a half, it's not really the commander respect that I'm lacking on. It's the items, it's the right effects, it's proper refinement on those items. So my personal advice is to find the items that you absolutely want to go on their best in slot across the board, maybe for multiple commanders, and try and find those and go for them instead of rushing commander respect higher, because commander respect is an easier pull from the chest. So over time, you will get that commander respected up. It's just going to take a little bit more time. Now, number 3 kind of hits hard because I know I've been mistaken. I know a lot of people commented on my video where I talked about the kind of top gear effects in the game, were some of my favorite ones. And a lot of people commented and said that they had gotten rid of, these really good effects. And so that is number 3. It's getting rid of good gear effects, whether it be something like Aegis, or maybe you're going for a hammer with Frenzy, Gigantic Hammer, could be a Palantir with Tackle Mark. There are a lot of really good effects that I know people who spend a significant amount are still looking for. And I know myself personally, I got rid of lots of good things in the early game because I just didn't know what stuff was. I'm trying to strengthen stuff. I'm trying to refine stuff now. The game's in a much better state now that we have the Elven Craftsman's Hammer, so you can undo some of the mistakes, but you're still very, very limited. So think twice, double check before you get rid of gold items. Again, there are some that are really safe to get rid of. We've done tier lists and things you can look up on the channel. I'll link something up in the top right if you're curious. But for the most part, you always want to double check before you get rid of a gold item. The next step has to do with the early game. If you've ever played in a season and tried to be competitive in the first 24 hours, it can be a lot of fun, but there is a big mistake that I kind of intentionally do, but others probably don't do it as intentionally, and it can set you back. And that is taking big tiles too soon. Now, it's a lot of fun to try and rush and get a 200 tile in your first 24 hours. And it is actually possible depending on how you play and how much you play in that time period. But a lot of times, you'd be better off taking a bunch of 150s for the first couple of days and leveling up your commanders, saving troops, then sending all your troops into a 200 plus tile. Again, we got a 300 pulled up here, but sending your troops in to a 200 tile, losing all of them, even if you manage taking it, even if you send a few armies in and take it, the troop loss is not worth the little bit of gain you get between a 150 and a 200. So take 130s, take 150s a little bit longer than you think you should. Again, if you're taking absolutely 0 losses and you're evenly matched with the tile, go for it. But in the first couple of days, it's not going to hurt you to focus on 150s and 130s more than those big tiles. Now, the next tip is not having a large enough variety of commanders that you run each season. Now, if you've been playing for a long time, even for a little bit, you get commanders pretty fast. So you're going to have a pretty big roster to choose from, but maybe you got a certain type you like. Maybe you like certain races. It's like you like to run all the Rohan characters, whatever it is, more power to you. But if you don't have a variety in your roster, let's say you run someone like Sunint, who's fantastic, and maybe you watched my counter video where I talked about counter tips for Sun. If you run all commanders that are countered by those things we talked about, so you run Sun and other commanders who run Arbalists or other ranged units who get targeted by Reapers, who get targeted by the Dunedain, whatever it is, you're going to be more easily countered. If someone figures out that, hey, this guy just runs ranged commanders, just bring one anti-ranged commander over, and that can shut you down pretty easily. So you want to run a variety of commanders who do physical damage, who do different elemental damages, who have commander damage builds, who do troop damage builds, all that kind of stuff. So have a variety in who you run so you can not only not get countered by one commander, but you can counter more than one commander. Now this one, I don't know, this isn't really like a game tip, but it's something that I don't think people think of, and I just want to give you a heads up because, I mean, I don't think I've done anything horrible in this game. I've definitely had my times getting frustrated and saying things I shouldn't over the more than year and a half. But the next tip is to not give yourself a bad reputation. Now, that could be different for everyone, and you might be like, I don't care what people think, and if that's the case, like, that's seriously fine. But people in this game remember how you act and the things you do, whether it be just what you say in world chat, or if you're betraying people in a season, whatever it is, you're like, I don't care, it's funny, I'm doing this. People will remember that for your seasons to come, and your season history here shows your name. So if I go here, I can see what groups I was in, what my name was in all these seasons. Even if I changed my name completely, I still have that history to go with me. So if I do something that really rubs people the wrong way, I might not have people that want to play with me in the future, or people might just target me because I have irritated a lot of people. So it's honestly best just to keep your head down and play the game. I'm not saying you can't be social and have fun, but you'd be surprised at how many people, just in the spirit of fun or their version of fun, end up really kind of alienating themselves from teams that, you know, otherwise they'd be a great fit for, but they just, you know, did something this season before or said something or whatever it is. Again, it's usually a war game. It's just best to play the game and let your commanders do the talking for you. So kind of a unique one, but again, curious maybe if you've got a bad reputation and how you've dealt with that, because it could definitely set you back in terms of how you interact with people. And lastly, in that same note of how you interact with people, the last tip is going to be never join a campaign without a team. And bonus tip, never join a campaign before you understand what the objective of the campaign is. We got lots of videos on the channel on all the different campaigns. There's all kinds of stuff on YouTube. So you should never go into a campaign unsure of what it's going to look like. And there is honestly no reason to go until this is a team game. The lone wolf mentality that some people have. Again, if that's you, maybe you can speak to that in the comments. But for me, it's a team game. You play with a fellowship. You coordinate with people. You don't have to play the same team every time, but you need to find a team. If you're a solo player, it's going to be a bad experience. You're going to get ganged up on by larger groups who are working together, who are trying to succeed. And if you're going against that or doing your own thing, it's just not going to go very well. So don't go in here and sign up and register as an individual. Instead, find a team, get in the Discord, and in our Discord, in the main Rise to War Discord, whatever it is. You can even type in world chat and just say, hey, I'm looking for a team. Obviously, you can also look in the different registrations and look at the team lists, and you can go through and see, hey, this team is a group that I want to go play in this faction or whatever it is. You could also see the leaders here. So if I see a faction I want to play in, okay, I want to play in Gondor, let me message this leader and see what they're about. If the leader never messages back, that might be a good indication that's not a great group. But if they get back with you, they've got information about what they're looking for, you might have found a good spot. So never join alone. It's a team game. It really benefits you to play like that. And that's it. Those are my 7 tips of things to avoid doing in the game. Let me know if there are any big mistakes you have made. And seriously, if you have not made one of these, I want to know, because I think it's pretty much impossible for someone to have not made one of these mistakes. I've made, again, not all of them. I'm happy to say I don't think I've made all of them, but probably 4 or 5 of them I probably make and still continue to make once in a while. So, but let me know down below if you've made any of these, and as always, I'll see you guys in a future video.